Hey gang, John Backrella here with your Lake St. Clair Fishing Report, brought to you by Sportsmen's Direct. It is Thursday, June 19th. Water temperature at Belle Isle is up to 68 degrees, up from 63 last week, so pretty darn steady climb. And we've had some pretty warm conditions since then, so kind of not a surprise that the water temp's going up, and it's going to go up a whole lot more here in the next week. So let's take a look at the weather real quick because that's very important for all of us outdoor people. Looks like the weather pick over the next weekend anyways is going to be tomorrow. If you can get out tomorrow you're going to have light winds, just overall some pretty darn nice conditions, maybe a chance of rain midday or so, but looks like the winds are going to be light. That's going to be the big thing. And it's also going to be the nicest temperature-wise day over the next 5 or 6 days because we have got a pretty significant heat wave coming in. And it's also going to bring with it some south winds. And those south winds are going to hold that warming surface water up in the lake. And it's going to allow it to warm up even more. And it's going to move the fish flies up to that north end of the lake big time too. But so let's talk really quick, though, about the weather that we just had here, especially if you folks are coming in from out of town. You need to be aware that we had torrential rains here yesterday. I mean, we had some real gully washers, where we got an inch or two of rain in a really short period of time. And it's got the spillway and the Clinton River water levels up really high. And with that, it not only does it mean it's pushing out a bunch of dirty water out into the lake, but it's also bringing out with it whole trees in some cases, okay? Like this footage that was shot over at the spillway at the dam yesterday. And, I mean, so you're going to have debris out in front of these areas. And with a south wind, as opposed to pushing that stuff out of the lake, it's going to hold it up in the lake and maybe even move it to the north. So just because you're launching north of the spillway or the Clinton River doesn't mean that you don't have to keep an eye out for that debris because it's going to get moved around on the lake. Okay, so wanted to mention that. Keep an eye out for that stuff. We don't need anybody, ripping their lower units out, breaking props or worse out there on the big water. So as I mentioned, mayfly hatch is going now, okay? And if you're a retail store owner and you forget to turn your lights out and you get the right, or you should say you get the wrong wind during a mayfly hatch, this is what you get. You need to bring out the snow shovels and you need to start shoveling the mayflies, which we had to do earlier this week. So doesn't look like that now. The mayflies are pretty much cleaned up, and we haven't had the right winds, and I haven't been foolish enough to have those lights on at night on the canopy now. So that's resolved. But mayfly hatch is going strong, and that affects everything because everything eats mayflies. So and I've had people come in the store, and I've heard this growing up all my life. I hear this thing about fish getting this sore mouth thing, okay, from mayflies, which I don't believe it because we catch fish all through the mayfly hatch. The only thing is you do notice that there is definitely a big uptick in fish activity early in the morning and then in the evening as the mayflies are starting to hatch. Doesn't mean you can't catch fish in the middle of the day. You can, but you definitely get a big uptick. And you need to, if you have fish that are going to feed on the surface, which dang near everything will feed on the surface, you need to pay attention to that top water bite, okay? And I'll talk about that as I'm going through the different species because almost everything is affected by the mayfly hatch and everything is going to be looking up because of it. So let's talk about perch real quick here. I brought it up in the last couple of reports that with the mayfly hatch, these soft bottom areas, which is also where you're going to get your weed growth, is going to definitely concentrate the fish, not just because of cover, but because of food. So those areas are definitely where you're going to want to key on. Guys are taking advantage of that right now. There's been a really good perch bite going on down on the south end of the lake, out in front of the Grosse Pointe Yacht Club area. We're getting reports of guys getting them over in the dumping grounds. Fish should be showing up out there by the mouth of the South Channel and by the St. Clair Light. I'm getting small reports from out there, but nothing stupendous. And there's been guys going over in Canadian water too, and they've just been tearing them up over there. And some of the guys are even fishing like on the Big Chubb's charters. Jordan, guys went over there and they were throwing plastics at them and just tearing them up. So your basic, like tungsten jigs you use for ice fishing with plastics, or drop shot rigs with smaller plastics. You don't need to use live bait all the time. I mean, sometimes the soft plastics will even outproduce minnows, but minnows work great, worms work great, but you can also get fish on soft plastics too. So bear that in mind on those perch. As far as, like I was talking about, the topwater bite, I will see sometimes in and around the point at Metro and some of the other shallow areas, early morning bites with those perch on mayflies, and I'm going to be trying to target them here if the weather plays nice here in the next few days, maybe after this heat wave, and I'll try to get some video on a topwater perch bite that I've had going a couple of years now. But the conditions got to be right for it, and right now with these higher winds that we got coming in, it's probably not going to be ideal. But those fish are still affected by the mayflies, so that's the point I wanted to bring up as far as perch, and especially where they're going to be located. They're going to be in those soft bottom areas for sure. The walleye right now, walleyes are affected by the mayflies as well. If you're a fisherman up there on the St. Clair River, you already know this, that during the mayfly hatch up there at night, as those bugs are coming up and up on the surface, these walleye feed really high, and they will surface feed on those mayflies up there. So there's a technique that the guys will use, not just a technique. I mean, they just change their presentation. They fish much lighter jigs, like 1/4 ounce jigs and 1/8 ounce jigs, and they fish them up high in the water column up there on the St. Clair River. And sometimes they'll even downsize to small hair jigs and walk the wall and things like that. I know guys were using perch pounders up there, walking the wall with the bigger perch pounders and taking fish right along the wall, right off the railing up there in the St. Clair River during the mayfly hatch over the last couple of years. So put that one in your arsenal, and when you see that topwater bite going up there and you start to see those splashes out there in front of you, or those little slurping sounds, that's probably walleyes taking mayflies off the surface. Now, my buddy Isaac's been out a couple of times this week, and just kind of to prove the point, he's caught fish out trolling in 18 feet of water, and he's caught fish in like 10 and 12 and 14 feet of water out there too. So there's a lot of walleyes. They're all over the place out there on the lake. One of the key things is either finding cover, being weeds, and or finding the right water color in those areas, because they generally don't feed well, or they're not very active in gin clear water, and especially in bright sunlight. So if you can find that off-colored water, you're going to find walleyes. Areas that are producing fish right now, obviously guys are still getting them up there in the St. Clair River. I know they're getting them down there in the Detroit River still. They're still jigging down there. They're still pulling harnesses. But there are fish out by the mouth of that south channel. There's fish over in that northeast corner of the dump right now. So there's a lot of different areas of fish. There's still fish off of the beach that we got when we were out this weekend, or I should say not this weekend, out on Monday filming a smallmouth video with Joe Bauer of Smallmouth Heaven Guide Service. And if you're interested in watching that, there's a link you can click on in the upper right hand corner here, and it'll take you right to that video. We just put it up today. So but as far as, we weren't targeting walleyes, though. We were targeting smallies, but we were still catching walleyes in 7-8 feet of water. So there's a lot of walleyes around. So it's whether you're trying to catch them or not, sometimes they're there, and they're pretty scrappy. So they're fun, but not as fun as catching smallies for the most part. Let's see. So leading into the smallie bite, which a lot of you guys are probably watching this video for and maybe coming into town, because Saturday is the smallmouth opener out here on Lake St. Clair. I wish we were going to have better water conditions for you. It looks like we're going to have, like I said, some fairly strong west-south or south-southwest winds, and you're probably going to have degrading water clarity with all that rain that we've had and the topsy-turvy wind. I mean, along with that rain that we got just yesterday, we also had like 50-mile-an-hour winds, and it was blowing pretty good all day as well. So I don't have a good satellite image, so I can't really go out there or pull it up and show you where the clean water and dirty water is. And even if I could right now, that's changing with the flow that's coming out of the different tributaries and with the existing wind conditions that we've had. So that water color is changing by the hour and it's moving around. So if you're going to be smallie fishing, the only advice that I can really give you is use your eyeballs, okay? And find that right water clarity for your presentations. And that's about the only thing I can say, because out deeper, you're probably going to have cleaner water conditions in and around those areas like the mouth of the Clinton River and the spillway, maybe not so much. So with a south wind, that water coming out of the spillway is probably going to get pushed and angled maybe a little bit north, which before it hits the main flow of the lake and starts to drag south. And so you may end up with some clean water on the inside, a slot of dirty water, and then some cleaner water on the outside. But you're just going to have to drive around and see for yourself when you get out there. So as far as where they are in the spawn, most of these fish are post-spawn now. We were out, like I said, we were out there on Monday. We did get some fish that were actively spawning. The area that we were at primarily was an area where there would be spawners. We weren't out deep where we would catch those post spawners, and there was still plenty of fish in there, but there were only a couple of them that really looked like that they were spawning actively still. But we did get some really nice quality fish. So if you want to check that video out, things that are working right now. Still swim baits. Joe was throwing a Senko rig. We were catching them on topwater. Ding! Back to the mayflies I was just talking about. If like tomorrow there should be, pretty flat water conditions in the morning. If you do, take advantage of that. What should be a great topwater bite, provided that you got the right water clarity. Think like a fish, right? In order for that topwater bite to be very effective, you need to have enough water clarity that those fish can really key in on that surface feeding activity. So you need at least enough visibility so that they can see clearly up there to pick those mayflies off. The smallies generally don't run around with their eye sockets sticking out of the water looking for mayflies, so they got to be able to really see them from below. Same thing goes for hitting your top water bait, whether it's like a popar or a spook or something like that. Yeah, you can get their attention with a prop bait and things like that, but these fish are really used to sight feeding with our generally clear water conditions. So in order to get a really good top water bite going, you need at least clear enough water that they can see all the way up to that surface. So if you can get the right water conditions out there, you're probably going to have a really good top water bite with the mayfly hatch going on out there for the smallies right now. Guys like Garrett Samsel are still out there chasing smallies as well, only Garrett's also a muskie guide. That muskie opener was just this last weekend, and Garrett's reports, I've been reading them all week, are seeing a lot of fish, so they're already having good success on the muskies this year. But I want to remind you, some of you guys are kind of critical of my reports that I don't talk about the muskies, and that's a real simple reason that most of the muskie fishermen are very tight-lipped, okay? They generally don't come into the store. They're not going to be bragging about where they're seeing fish, and the charter captains are generally not talking about where they're seeing fish either. So they're really secretive about that. All I can do is give you general guidance, and one of the general guidances I'll give you guys, and I do it every year, is that fish where the biggest amount of biomass is. If you got a big area, if you got an area that's loaded with smallies and perch and walleyes, there's going to be muskies there, okay? So then it's up to you to find some of those key structural elements that'll help narrow your search down, that are going to be ambush points for those muskies, and that's what's going to increase your odds to get them. But as far as, telling you where these guys are catching them, that ain't going to happen. Other than like the mouth of the spillway or whatnot, during the fall. But main part of the season, open water season, these guys are not giving up information on where the hot bite is on the muskies, and it's generally not that big of a secret. When you're out there looking, you can tell who's trolling for muskies, and you can definitely see who's waving around those 1 pound baits when they're casting them. So there really isn't much of a secret if you're out there driving around. With all this rain that we just had, I got to mention this one. The catfish bite at the mouth of the spillway should be epic over the next couple of days. Right now it's flowing. It's like at flood level, But as soon as it starts to drop down and it gets to a fishable level, I can guarantee you it's going to be loaded with hungry catfish, because we haven't had a good rain in, man, it seems like a couple of months. We haven't seen this kind of flow out of the spillway really all this later part of the spring. So those fish are going to be chomping at the bit. They're going to be stacked up out there at the mouth of the spillway, probably the Clinton River as well, and any other area that's got a good flow coming out, any drain systems. There's going to be a bunch of catfish out there. So if that's your thing, take advantage of it. Cats fight really hard. They're not hard to catch. They don't require a lot of tackle, but you are probably going to have to wait for that water level to come down a bit, because there's going to be a ton of algae and trees and all kinds of stuff coming out of those areas right now, and you're just not going to be able to hold bottom with all that junk coming out of there. Candace Miller just recently made a change, or took that spillway dam back to its normal operating condition, where for the most part it's going to be shut off and there's only going to be a minimal amount of flow coming out of that spillway, and the rest of the flow is going to go out of the Clinton River like it was intended to do originally. So there was a few years there where we were getting just a straight flow right out of the spillway every time it rained, and that was also creating part of the problem with all that buildup and stuff in the area in and around that Clinton River cutoff boat launch. So now with that dam working like it's supposed to, unless we get a very severe flow like what we just got, that water is going to generally go out the regular Clinton River, and that's the way it's supposed to do it. So I think that's all I've got for the report for you guys. We are loaded up with golden shiners if you need, and leeches for this weekend if you're going out chasing smallies. Check out that video that Joe and I did on Monday. It came out great. We had perfect conditions. We caught a lot of great fish, and we'll see you at the store this weekend. Hey gang, if you like our content, hit the little subscribe button and the bell icon, and you'll be notified as soon as we put out new stuff.